In this video, we're going to be taking a general overview of some of the main functions on the machine interface. So let's get started by taking a look at the two displays at the top of the machine hardware. Above the displays are 8 buttons, and below them are 8 rotary encoders. Now these buttons and rotary encoders are multi-purpose. They're entirely context sensitive, which means their function depends on whatever is displayed on the screen at the time. So for example, the first button here takes us to the master section, the next one to group, and the next one to sound. Now the last one has no valid option, so it remains dim, while the others that do have options are lit. So you can see on this side we have valid options here such as channel, plugin, and then we have these pages we can scroll through. And so long as there are more pages to scroll through, the buttons remain illuminated, but when we get to the end, they go dim. Now so far I haven't actually loaded up a project, so if we navigate around, we can get a feel for the structure, but nothing is populated yet. Now moving on to the pads, they operate in a similar way. When there's no sound loaded, they remain dim, but once they have sounds on them, you'll see them all light up. Now there's always going to be one pad that's brighter than the rest, and this is to show us which pad is currently selected, or to use proper machine terminology, which pad is currently in focus. So let's load up a kit now. I'm going to go to Browse, and this takes us back to the same browser we were looking at when we covered the browser in the machine software. Now while we're in browse mode, these top two buttons up here allow us to go through our projects, groups, sounds, instruments, and so on, just like we could on the machine software. So I'm going to go to groups, and now we can further define our search by using the encoders here at the bottom to more narrowly define the kind of thing we're looking for. So I'm going to go to Kits, and I'm going to go to Artist Kits. So notice as we apply these different data filters, the right screen populates with different kits. And to navigate these kits, I can just press Next, and as soon as I do that, that will load up the kit. So that's one way to do it. The other thing we can do is use the main rotary encoder here, and you can use it to scroll, and if you push it down, it actually clicks, and that will load up a kit as well. And we can also use the main encoder to scroll, and just use the top right button here to load. Now I can further define this search by going to the favorites button here, and this will just bring up all the kits in this category that I favorited before. Now there happens to be another window here, which is hidden right now. If you've ever used Akai samplers, you'll be familiar with the window button. Well, the equivalent to the window button here on machine is holding down the shift button. So with that held down, you can now see some new options such as set favorite, and I can just toggle this on or off like so. Also, you can see the plus pattern button here, which allows you to load the pattern with the kit. So I'm going to leave it active now. And now when I load a kit, if it has its own pattern, that will load as well. Okay, so let's move on now to the next section, which is the master section here. So the way this works is we have some parameters on the left, such as volume. And once you've made your selection, the main rotary encoder will now control that parameter. So you can see I've got control here over volume. And note if I use the shift function, I can have fine control as well. Now we've also got control here for swing. It's not something you're going to hear a tremendous effect from on this pattern, because there aren't a lot of 16th notes in succession. Next we have tempo. And you can also make adjustments using these left and right keys underneath the encoder to get single step increments. Okay, so next we have our groups. And here you can switch between your groups that are populated with kits, or if you select an empty slot, it'll create a group there for you. So you can see here we now have an empty group, and it's an easy thing to go into the browser and just load up another kit. Let me first get out of this tempo mode. And I'm just going to select a kit and press down on the encoder to load it. Now if we take a look at the machine software, you'll see that a pattern has loaded with the kit. So if we want to change that behavior for the future, we can just go into our shift window here and turn off the pattern load. Now in the meantime, I still have a pattern that I want to erase. So I'm going to hold down shift. And when you hold down shift, you gain access to all the secondary functions. These are printed above the buttons here in white legend. And there's one here on the pad section called clear, and that will clear our pattern. So we'll come back to some of these secondary functions a little bit later on. Now we can move on to the transport section. This is very similar to what we have in the software. Restart restarts the sequence from the beginning, and the play button can both stop playback and resume playback. Okay, so next we have step back and step forward buttons, and these allow you to move the playhead back and forward through your scene or pattern. Okay, so now let's take a look at grid mode. When you hold down the grid button, you're greeted with a new screen, and this gives you access to different quantize settings. And quantizing will force events to fit to the grid. Now you can see here the pads have lit up white, and that's because we can actually use the pads here to make our selection. So there are a couple of different modes we have access to: performance, arrange, and step. We're going to go into step mode for now. Now step quantize is where machine takes your live playing and then lines it up to the grid in the sequencer. So if you want machine to record the exact way you played and preserve that without any alterations, you could just turn off quantize altogether. Okay, so we're going to take a little break here, and when we come back in the next video, we'll continue to explore the basic functions of the machine hardware. So thanks for watching, and take care.